turn this on. I would like to call the July 24th, 2023 Warwick County Board of School Trustees meetings to order. Please stand and join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No concerns. Okay, thank you. Item 3 on the agenda was patrons' concerns. Seeing none, we will move on to item 4, data presentation by Dr. Abby Redmond.
Try to get the lights in a way that we can still see.
Should I turn, Jeff? It might fall off there.
That looks great.
Watch Jeff fall off. He's right in the way.
I'm going to do my best to stay behind the podium, but I don't do that very well. So if I move around and someone can't hear me, please just let me know. Board members, you actually have a copy of this presentation in your board packet. We added that, I think, this morning. And also, I'm going to be talking about our data with what I call the 360 view. This is going to be our district level view of the data. We're not getting into individual school level data. However, board members, you have school level data in your packet as well for your review. And I'll let the public know where they can go to see school level data as well. So we thought tonight it might be a great time to talk about standardized testing. The good, the bad, the ugly. We have an interesting relationship with standardized testing. It is the measure by which our public looks at to determine if we're doing well or not. So part of what I wanted to talk with the group about tonight is some of the other types of testing that we do as well, so that people have an understanding of the purpose of what we call formative assessment versus summative assessment, to give a little bit more context about what that looks like on a day-to-day basis with our students and teachers. And then we'll dig into our 2023 results of our actual standardized tests in terms of iLearn, iRead, and the SAT. So we always joke about this, you know, despite the best efforts from our teachers, sometimes scores don't come back the way we want. So we always kind of have this thing, oh, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Or is it going to be ugly? But the message that we have in Warwick County is that no matter where we land with that data, we own the data. Okay, it gives us a picture. It's one point. We have multiple other pieces of data that we look at. Of course, we look at attendance, we look at behavior data, we look at counselor referral data. All of those things help paint a picture for us in terms of what we're dealing with our students and progress that we're making toward any kind of school level goals that we have. But tonight, we're really going to be focusing on academic data. Okay, so very quickly, because I don't want to get on my soapbox and talk for the next hour about the different kinds of assessments, but I did want to try to give you a picture of and an understanding, at least a basic understanding of the different types of assessment. So we really categorize assessments in two ways. We have what's called formative assessment or summative assessment. When we're talking about formative versus summative, it really has to do with the purpose. Okay, that is the difference. It's the purpose and when we give the assessment. So when I think formative assessment, I'm thinking that is where the learning is actually taking place. Okay, so when teachers are working through their instructional cycles, they might be doing everything from what we call just a daily check for understanding. They're asking questions. They're having students answer things on a whiteboard and holding them up. That is what we call real-time data. Okay, so that's happening daily. Then we have other types of formative assessment data that might be a little lengthier, or it might be something like a benchmark assessment, like you've heard maybe of NWEA, or math growth scores, or math reading fluency. So the purpose of those assessments and the purpose of checking for understanding and those things all fall on that left side. So we're doing that throughout the course. We're trying to improve the learning. On the right side is the summative assessment. That's what you have to think of. It's the final assessment. So at the end of any given instructional period, at the end of a course, or at the end of a school year, like we do with iLearn or SAT, those are summative assessments, and that is meant to measure student performance. So one way that I like to kind of think about this that helps people sometimes is think about when you're cooking. So let's say you're making a pot of soup. The formative assessment is when periodically through the cooking and the recipe and making of that recipe, you're tasting the soup. And you're like, oh, I'm checking here. It needs more salt. You throw in more salt. You let it cook and simmer. Oh, I'm tasting it again. Every time you taste that soup as the chef, that's a formative assessment. When you serve that soup to your customer or your family, that's the summative assessment. Okay? Okay, so again, we're focusing on academic summative assessments today. Unfortunately, we do not yet have our released statewide or district level scores for IREE 3. The reason we don't have that yet is because there's a summer testing window that just ended toward the end of July. So they're still taking that summer data, adding it to the data that we had in the spring, and then they do all the data cleanup because there are some rules about the number of days that a student has to be present for that data to count toward your corporation. So they're doing all of that cleanup right now. But and the results, the final results are supposed to be to us in August. So as soon as I have those, I'll definitely share that with the group. I will tell you, and thought it might be of interest to you, that we have an opportunity now to give IREE 3 to our second graders. So 2 years ago, they allowed us to pilot, and we had 2 schools at that time who opted in. It was Elberfeld and Newburgh. We wanted a small school and a bigger school. And basically what happened 2 years ago is those second grade students, it's the same testing window as the third grade testing window. Those students take the exact same IREE 3 exam as the third graders. But there's no harm in terms of their results. So what's happened is for students who pass as second graders, they're finished with IREE. They don't have to take it as a third grader. For students who don't pass, no harm done. Now, what the state did then the following year, which was this past school year, we decided we're opting everybody in, because what we found is the information that the Newburgh and Elberfeld second grade teachers were able to give the third grade, the incoming third grade teacher, in terms of here's another data point measuring where students stand. You know, I don't have to worry about Sally because Sally already passed it and she's reading fluently. Okay? They ended up leveling that out into 3 categories. So passing, they don't have to take it again as third graders. They have a category called on track. So that means if you simply provide all of the instruction that you would normally have provided a student for the remainder of second grade and into third grade, those students, based on their score in second grade, are on track to pass. Then we have the at-risk group. So think about the value of that as a third grade teacher, knowing that on day 1 rather than having to wait and do all of that beginning of the year assessment. So we're excited. That's a great opportunity. That was a good move on the part of the state because it's no harm. It's a less stress level for the second graders because the parents and the students know just go in, do your best, and see where you land. And we've had good results from that so far with second grade. So once we get that final IREE 3 set of data, we will definitely get that in your hands. iLearn. iLearn is the assessment that our students take in 3rd through 8th grade. The first thing I wanted to share with you are district level scores as related to the state. So S means state. So for our 2023, our combined 3rd through 8th grade district score for ELA, we had 58.2% of the students pass. Math was sitting at 64, and 50.2% of our students passed both assessments. You can see that we are well above where the state performed. Now, I point that out because we had many years of us feeling pretty comfortable about where we were in relationship to our state scores, and we're thinking, we're knocking it out of the park, we're doing really well. So what we decided to do a couple of years ago, actually I think it was about a year and a half ago, we thought, let's try to seek out other corporations that are similar to us in terms of free and reduced lunch, special ed percentage, close to the same size, and we created a cohort group. What we found in that cohort is that we were already blowing away that cohort. We were also scoring pretty well above, several percentage points above those schools that we had identified in our cohort. So last year, we decided that we were going to create what we called an aspiring cohort. So this became our new cohort. These are schools that you hear traditionally doing very well in Indiana, Noblesville, Hamilton Southeastern, Westfield, schools like that that are not necessarily similar to us in demographics. They are not similar to us in free and reduced, special ed, size may or may not be the same. And we wanted to try to give some context in relationship to where we sit with those schools. This may be hard to see. Okay, again, board members, you have this in your packet. What you'll see here, Warwick is in the yellowy orange color at the top. The green highlighted section are our current scores for this school year, but you can see our data from 21, 22, and 23. So when I look at Warwick, just looking at ELA, we made some progress from 21 to 22, from 22 to 23 for ELA as a district, we're sitting pretty flat. When you look at math, however, we are continuing to grow 21 to 22 and really had a huge jump in 23 with that 64% pass rate. And then we're steadily stepping up for the percentage of students who have passed both as well. So in 2021, we only had 43.9%, and we've jumped up to 50.2% this last school year. So that in and of itself, that's some good news, especially on the math side. But if you take a look at these other schools, so we have Westfield, Noblesville, Hamilton Southeastern, Penn, Center Grove, Northwest Allen, Valpo, and Brownsburg. And when you look at where we sit, we're doing pretty well in that cohort. Even though some of those schools, when you look at that free and reduced number, and I didn't put everything on this because it got to be too much. I didn't put special ed, I didn't put all of that in here. But when you look at free and reduced, Westfield at 14.7%, Noblesville at 22%, Hamilton Southeastern at 15%. So these are schools that have a different demographic than we have, and we are either right with them or just below them compared to most of these schools, except you got Brownsburg down there, and they're killing it across the board, and they're beating out everyone. So we found this was really encouraging, and this is really great for our teachers to see, because when you just look at a number like 58%, you're like, ugh, like we should be doing so much better than that. We want that score to be so much higher than that, which we still do. But when I look at data, it's all about the context. Are we making growth? Are we improving a percentage or two every year? Are we, similar to our similar school district cohort? Are we hanging in there with that new cohort like we are here? So this is good news for us. So when I was pulling the data for these other schools, I started to notice well, goodness, all these people are up toward the top of this spreadsheet. So, I wonder how we stand in the entire state. So I took the spreadsheet and sorted that for all 387 schools who reported scores. Warwick County School Corporation in ELA was 25th on the list out of 387. Pretty good. In math, 21st, and in both 22nd. So we're getting up to that 5, 6, 7% in the state in terms of our performance. That's great news. We have some teachers in the audience. Like, they just look at them, they're like, okay?
That's great.
Okay, so that's iLearn. In I'll show you here in just a minute. For anybody in the public or in the audience or even for board members, we tried to compile that data together for you, and like I said, it's in your packet, but I want to show you where you can go and access all the same spreadsheets that I accessed. Okay, our high schools. Our high schools, I think we're at the second year now, where their accountability assessment is what we call SAT School Day. So I don't have as much detailed information yet because those scores just pushed out to that public data. And I don't have the nice cohort comparison and all of that yet, but I will show you where we stand and compare to the state. We're also really trying to take a good look at where we are with our trend data, which because we're only 2 years into this, it's not as clear. It doesn't paint as clear a picture as our iLearn scores do because we've done that for many years. So in looking at SAT School Day data, in case you can't read that, I'll read that for you. Across the top, it's our district percentage. So the first column says met ERW benchmark at 480. ERW means evidence-based reading and writing. Evidence-based reading and writing. The benchmark for ELA is 480. The benchmark for math is 530. So what the College Board is telling us is if a student who scores a 480 on the ERW has a 75% chance to receive a C or higher at a 100 level intro course in literature, reading, writing, or history. So that's where they've done some stats work and data work to look at students who score these kind of scores in high school and the SAT correlate to these kind of grades when they get to college. Okay? The math benchmark is the 530. So again, a student who scores a 530, College Board is reporting that means they have a 75% chance to receive a C or better in an introductory math course at the college level. Okay, so I wanted you to understand what those numbers mean. So when we look at the district, our ERW score was 55.3 compared to the state at 50.5. For math, this is really troubling. For math, we scored a 38.3. The state, 38.3% met the benchmark. Let me say that correctly. At the state, all of the students in Indiana, all 11th graders who took this, only 30.7 of the students across the state of Indiana met the math benchmark. So we're getting to know this assessment. It's been good the last couple of years. We've been putting together some data protocols and we've been working with our PSAT data to help us really lift up. And it's been a lift for our high schools to really understand like the level they have to be able to perform better, perform at that level at the college level. So this is some of our work that we're tackling at the high school level. Then finally, I just wanted to kind of give you an idea what we do with the data at this point. So I've just given you like this snapshot district view. But we have all kinds of data protocols in place that we started using last school year, where we have templates in place and buildings can take their building level data, they can break it down to grade level data, to classroom level data, student level data. We can sort by demographic, we can sort by males, females, we can sort by all different ways to figure out, is there a particular group, grade level, school, student group that is struggling, and if so, then we make our game plan, how are we going to attack that, how are we going to intervene to try to get those students to make movement the next time they take their summative assessment. Our teachers are great with making those teaching adjustments, going to professional development if they feel like they have an area where they need some additional help in understanding what that looks like to help students. And then the last thing I wanted to point out is we've really been trying to be mindful of looking at both cohort data and trend data, because that tells us two different things. So when we look at our cohort data, apples to apples to apples, right? Sometimes you find, okay, this group of students for the last 3 years has had difficulty with, say, computation, And that's been consistent with that group. Well, that tells us something, and when you start digging into that, there could be a reason. For example, maybe that group of students, they were third graders at the end of the year where we left school for the pandemic, and they literally missed 9 weeks of instruction. That would be an example of a reason why a cohort maybe had difficulty. The other thing that we ask our teachers to do is to really reflect and look at what we call trend data. If I'm a fourth grade teacher and I'm looking at my apples from 2 years ago and my oranges from last year and my lemons from this year, and I see that, and again, we can break this down by standard, if I see that I'm doing really well with a particular set of standards, but all three groups of students, different sets of students, did not score well on a particular standard, they actually color code them green, yellow, and red. The state actually does that for us now, which is very nice. So if I have a group of red, and it's three different groups of students, then that's when our teachers are really great at looking and saying, I need to have a little self-reflection. Maybe my lessons aren't as strong as they need to be for this group. Maybe I have this standard built way at the end of my pacing guide, and I'm not giving enough time to it before students have to take the assessment. So we're always looking at data, cohort group, and trend data. And that's all I have for you tonight. If you have questions for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I did just want to say thank you. When we look at, any piece of data that you're looking at, it tells a piece of the story, right? But it is nice when you put that data into context, especially our iLearn data. Kudos to those teachers for really, getting us up there really close to those other schools at the top, performing at the top of the state. And we're going to keep climbing. I'm confident. We're going to keep climbing.
Question, so
Yep.
fair to say that iLearn is 3 through 8, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's performing very well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that's, compared to the SAT, which is high school level, what's the deal there?
Yeah.
I mean, can you break that down? I know you just got
Yes.
the data, but what's the difference? I mean,
So
is it
there
just
are.
because kids are older and they don't, they got other social things going on? And
That can be part of it. It gets really complex the older students get.
Yeah.
So I will say this, and I want to be careful in how I say it because it's just a different way that teachers think and have been trained. So our high school teachers, now that this is their data that they're getting measured by, we are taking the steps that we need to really help. What does that standard look like when I'm in an 11th grade language arts course and I'm looking at that standard and they have to prove that on an assessment? What does that look like? They haven't had to play that game before.
Yeah.
Our elementary people have been in this iStep, iLearn game for a lot of years, and they do a really nice job of understanding, here's the standard, here's how it's going to be assessed, we've got all this learning that needs to take place, and they've just had, some of it they've had a little more practice, and some of it is that they are, because of that, they are better skilled at understanding where the students have to be to perform well on that assessment. Again, we're getting there with our high school people. When you look at a 30% across the state, like that's again, I think I said earlier, it's a little troubling. So some of it, also when you think about high school, our high school folks, and I'm saying this as somebody who was a high school person, we get very connected to our content, and we think of it more as I'm teaching world history, I'm teaching geometry, and maybe we're not digging into the standards as deeply as our elementary colleagues do. But
let me ask a
we're
question.
getting there.
But isn't there a slippery slope of, let's teach the test just to hit numbers?
Absolutely.
And you're missing the comprehensive,
Absolutely.
approach
That's-
anyways? So what do we really care?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can make that argument, Jordan. And that is something that I want to point out. This assessment is a point in time, and I can tell you every teacher that I know can say they've had a student or multiple students who they know they've learned, they
Yeah.
know they've grown, and for whatever reason, that day they had to sit and take that summative assessment, they didn't perform at the level that the teacher expected them to. But we have all of this other data NWEA, our formative assessments, the other data that I talked about that shows they did show growth over that school year. So we have to be careful, Jordan,
Yeah,
because we don't want to sacrifice the learning to score well on an assessment, but we can
there's a balance we
There's
can
a
try to
balance.
achieve, yeah.
There's a
So goes
balance.
standardized testing.
there's a
So,
balance.
yeah.
So,
Thank
yes,
you.
so that's why I always try to say and make sure that I point out, this is one piece.
Yeah.
This is one piece. Okay? Because we all know also, just one last point, we also know that there are a lot of things that kids can do and show and demonstrate to us that cannot be measured on that
Sure.
assessment.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dr. Redmond, you'd mentioned that you were going to share where
Yes.
the audience can get hold of the information.
Yes, yes, so I've got it pulled up here now. If you just go to our Indiana Department of Ed website, you can get any of this data and spreadsheets, and you can really dig in if you want to. So we have iLearn listed here, you just click on the links, and if you scroll down, you can see SAT, iRead will be there soon. We have our IAM assessment results, which is the assessment our students with cognitive disabilities take. And you can really dig into state level, corporation level, disaggregated data, and so on. Okay?
And
If you
what was at the very bottom of that?
It's all of the.
Scroll down.
It's all of the archive data.
Okay, I was gonna say the Indiana State A through F,
Yeah,
that's
this
no
is all-
longer in effect.
Yes, that's all of our archive
Okay.
data. So you can go back many years and look at previous scores. So you can just Google IDOE assessment results, and it'll take you right there.
Okay.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You wanna Get those lights for us, please.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay. There we go.
Just, yeah.
There we go, thank you.
Oh, that was too much. I should have dimmed him up a little bit. Get used to that. yeah.
Like, little transition there, Jordan.
Oh,
Okay, we will now move on to item 5 on the agenda, consideration of routine items. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilhelmus. Approving the minutes of the school board meeting held on July 10th, 2023, and approving the claims and signing the docket for July 24, 2023, I recommend the board approve the routine items as presented.
We have a motion by Mrs. Metzger, a second by Mr. Franz. Is there any discussion? And tonight, we will do a roll call for each vote, so I will turn it over to Mrs. Glover for the vote call.
Mrs. Wilhelmus,
Aye.
Ms. Metzger,
Aye.
Mr. Mosby,
Aye.
Mr. Eigner,
Aye.
Mr. France,
Aye.
Mr. Baker, and I vote aye.
Motion carries. Item 6, consideration of items for board action. Dr. Redmond.
Agenda item A, consider authorizing the superintendent to hire employees to ensure staffing for the start of the school year. Each year, the board has authorized the superintendent to hire staff, ensuring that we are fully staffed on day one of school. I know Dr. Gresham will really appreciate this. As positions are filled, the board will be provided the names of the new hires and will take official action at a subsequent board meeting. This authorization to hire will begin tomorrow on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. I recommend the board approve this recommendation as presented. And just to be clear, this is just so that between now and day one of school, if we had to wait to the next school board meeting for you guys to approve at that point, then we would not be able to make any hires and have our school staffed on day one. And we want to make sure we're not in that position.
We have a motion by Mr. Mosby, second by Mrs. Glover. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, roll call for the vote, please.
Mrs. Wilhelmus.
Aye.
Ms. Metzger,
Aye.
Mr. Mosby,
Aye.
Mr. Eigner,
Aye.
Mr. Baker,
Aye.
Mr. France,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Motion carries. Item 6B, first reading of updated policy 2435, teacher appreciation grant. Dr. Redmond.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilhelmus. In your board packet, you will find a copy of updated policy 2435, Teacher Appreciation Grant. Each year, the Indiana Department of Education requires school corporations to re-adopt this policy. The only changes to this policy from previous years are to the dates within the policy and the removal of the discussion language due to the change in Indiana law pertaining to discussion. This yearly policy update is for the distribution of the Teacher Appreciation Grant monies for teachers who were highly effective or effective on their evaluation from last year and who will be employed on December 1st, 2023. Tonight, we will conduct the first reading of the updated policy. A second reading will occur at the board meeting on August 14th, at which time the board may take action. So there was a nice bit of summary in what Dr. Lambert gave us there in that description, but I will just give a little more summary for the first reading. And then also just to our public so they are aware, once we read this tonight, Dr. Lambert will have the proposed policy in a folder that the public can access along with all of our policies under the school board tab on our website. Okay? So the Warwick County Board of School Trustees establishes this policy to distribute the Teacher Appreciation Grant monies according to Indiana law. The Warwick County School Corporation shall, in the state fiscal year in which the Teacher Appreciation Grant is made, will A, adopt an annual policy concerning the distribution of the money, and B, submit the policy to the Department of Ed for approval, and C, obtain the Department of Ed's approval of the policy. A Teacher Appreciation Grant received by the Warwick County School Corporation shall be allocated among and used only to pay cash stipends to all licensed teachers employed in Warwick County School Corporation classrooms who are rated as effective or highly effective. The Warwick County School Corporation will distribute all stipends within 20 days of the date the Indiana Department of Ed distributes the Teacher Appreciation Grant monies to the school corporation. And again, no action is needed on that this evening.
Item 6C, consider appointment of redevelopment committee member. Dr. Redmond.
In your board packet, you will find a request from the Linville Town Council to appoint Melinda Green as a member of their redevelopment committee. And just to clarify, this is a non-voting member. In your packet, you will also find the recommendation from the council that they sent to us. I recommend the board approve this appointment as submitted.
Do we have a motion?
I make that motion.
We have a motion by Mrs. Glover. A second by Mrs. Metzger. Is there any discussion?
I've got a question. And forgive me, I missed this in the packet, apparently.
It's a state statute that we
But usually it's an appointment from the board.
right.
Not a board member.
Okay.
It can be a board member.
I didn't know
It
that.
can
I
be a
just
board-
wanted
Yes.
to make sure that,
Yes,
okay.
Jordan, you are correct. It can be a board member or a representative from that we agree to.
Okay.
Right.
That you guys agree to.
Right.
As a board. And
Good
some
deal.
of, in the packet, some of the reasons they wanted to have Mindy as the representative is because of her activity in the community. She's one
Oh,
of
I
our.
think it's great. I
she's
just
one
want to
of
make
our
sure it wasn't
employees.
something we were supposed to be doing and we're like, yeah, go ahead, you know.
Right, no, that's a great
Trying to make
question.
sure we're doing our
Yeah.
job.
Jordan,
you
are
know.
you saying you'd like to be on this?
Nope.
That's what I thought.
Nope.
Just making sure.
I'll make a motion.
Just making sure. So,
Yeah, Eric's going to put me on there.
yes.
Well, Mindy Green teaches at Linville, and she is an excellent candidate. And I'm
Great.
sure she will do a great job on this. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote.
Mrs. Wilhelmus.
Aye.
Ms. Metzger.
Aye.
Mr. Mosby.
Aye.
Mr. Eigner.
Aye.
Mr. Baker. Mr. France.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Mindy. It's Linville night. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, Human Resources Office, Dr. Gresham.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilhelmus. The HR office has the following business to bring before the board tonight. Agenda item A, consideration of employment, certified staff positions. Pamela Dorman, a temporary first grade teacher at Elberfeld Elementary. Brandy Keller, temporary science teacher at Castle South. Leslie Meyer, fourth grade teacher at Sharon Elementary. Hillary McClure, language arts teacher at Tecumseh High. David George, social studies teacher at Tecumseh High. Nicole Miller, band teacher at Castle High. Kaylee Flathers, special education teacher at Oakdale Elementary, and the following support staff positions: Jessica Bugg, ABS program assistant at Castle North; Mallory Reed, full-time custodian at Sharon Elementary; Natalie Wilson, program assistant at Newburgh Elementary; Jennifer Hambrick, temporary program assistant at Sharon Elementary; Beth Scott, 4.25-hour cafeteria position at Castle High; Julie Newton, multi-responsibility position; Christina Carwile, multi-responsibility position; Sarah Durgy, program assistant at Elberfeld Elementary; Mike Dameron, full-time custodian at Tecumseh High; Kelsey St. Amour, part-time custodian at John H. Castle; Melissa Millsap, part-time custodian at Boonville High; Calvin Stevens, multi-responsibility position; Christina Horn, 6.0-hour cafeteria position at Logue Elementary; Aaron Williams, program assistant at Castle High; Lindsay Freeman, program assistant at Castle High; Sam Scales, job share program assistant at Castle South; Taylor Putnam, job share program assistant at Castle South; Austin Seidel, program assistant at Castle North; Sarah Miller, Braille, program assistant at Sharon Elementary; and Ellen Ribley, temporary ABS program assistant at Sharon Elementary.
That's quite a list. Do we have a motion? We have a motion to approve by Mr. Franz, second by Mr. Mosby. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. The multi-responsibility positions, are those brand-new people that have decided to do this, or did they do the same job last year?
It's a mixed bag. Some are new employees, and I believe at least one on the list had that position in the past and now wants to add bus driving so they can earn benefits.
Because that's a great, I mean, we're getting
Yes,
bus drivers.
That's
that way.
good. That's very good.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? We'll call for the roll.
Mrs. Wilhelmus.
Aye.
Ms. Metzger.
Aye.
Mr. Mosby.
Aye.
Mr. Eigner.
Aye.
Mr. Baker. Mr. France.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Agenda item B, consider naming Tecumseh High School varsity girls basketball coach. The name presented to the board is Corey Knable.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mrs. Glover, second by Mrs. Metzger. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, or excuse me, roll call, please.
Mrs. Wilhelmus.
Aye.
Ms. Metzger.
Aye.
Mr. Mosby.
Aye.
Mr. Eigner.
Aye.
Mr. Baker. Mr. France.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
He's getting weaker.
Motion carries.
Agenda item C, leave requests. Brandy Keller, program assistant at Castle South. Brandy Rocker-Guest, ABS program assistant at Sharon. Mindy Kegel, speech language pathologist at Logue Elementary. Alyssa Miller, biology teacher at Castle High. Mara Humphrey, third grade Excel teacher at Chandler Elementary. Jennifer Sozio, fourth grade teacher at John H. Castle Elementary.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Eigner, second by Mr. Mosby. Is there any discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Mrs. Wilhelmus.
Aye.
Ms. Metzger.
Aye.
Mr. Mosby.
Aye.
Mr. Eigner.
Aye.
Mr. Baker. Mr. France.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Motion carries. Dr. Gresham?
Agenda item D, report of cafeteria transfer, Amanda Williamson, 4.5 hours at Linville Elementary to 6.5 hours at Linville Elementary. Agenda item E, report of transfer, Katie Scales, speech language pathologist from Chandler Elementary to Logue Elementary. Agenda item F, resignations, Rachel Gunn, 3.0 hours cafeteria employee at Castle High, resignation effective July 8th, 2023. Christine Olson, program assistant Castle North, resignation effective July 13th, 2023. Kelly Wiseman, 4.5-hour cafeteria employee at Castle High, resignation effective July 17th, 2023. Julie Posey, special education teacher at Oakdale Elementary, resignation effective July 13th, 2023. Audra Brady, program assistant at Chandler Elementary, resignation effective July 22nd, 2023. Mariah Rush, program assistant at Logue Elementary, resignation effective July 11th, 2023. Stacy Sims, program assistant at Newburgh Elementary, resignation effective July 11th, 2023. Tanqua Sturgill, Braille, program assistant Sharon Elementary, resignation effective July 14, 2023. Janice Scarborough, 6.0-hour cafeteria employee at Newburgh Elementary, resignation effective July 10th, 2023. Brooke Kruckenberg, program assistant at Castle North, resignation effective July 18, 2023. Stephen Rhodes, bus driver, resignation effective August 12th, 2023. Courtney Jenkins, 5.0-hour cafeteria employee at Tecumseh High, resignation effective July 18, 2023. Kelly Hires, fourth grade teacher at Yankeetown Elementary, resignation effective July 20, 2023. And agenda item G, retirements. Kevin Oxley, English teacher at Tecumseh High School, retirement effective July 11th, 2023. And Nancy Bullinger, special education teacher at Elberfeld Elementary, retirement effective July 31st, 2023.
Thank you, Dr. Gresham. It's been a busy time. Agenda item 8, reports. Dr. Redmond.
Since we had the data presentation this evening, we do not have any of the directors giving an additional report, but I did want to make a quick announcement that this week we are offering what we're calling PD Palooza. It's open to all of our staff members in Warwick County, and it's just a really exciting time to have a full week of professional learning available to our staff. It's completely voluntary, but I will tell you today, on day one of kickoff, we had a very specific topic we were covering, and we had several teams there who worked with us all day. I think we had 60 or more people there with us today. Tomorrow we have most of the PD tomorrow's coming out of special ed, our behavior teams and that group, so they are on deck for tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we have engagement and some work with standards clarity protocols and standards-based report cards. Thursday is our traditional where we have multiple presentations going on. We have several of our staff members who have stepped up and are actually leading those presentations throughout that day, so that's great and fun to see as well. And then Friday, we finish up with a half day where teachers can come and report, and they can take anything that they've learned over the course of this week and really think about the action steps and next steps, and they just have work time. So we will have people available to help facilitate that and help them take all of the information that they learned over the course of this week and apply it to their particular grade level, setting, content area, and they're going to do some of that work getting ready for August 9th and our students.
It's a wonderful
You guys are
opportunity.
welcome. Yeah, it's a great opportunity. All of you are welcome to hop in. I know you have work and all those kinds of things, but the entire packet of all of the sessions, the times, the dates, and the descriptors are in your board packet as well. That's all I had.
Thank you. Other board business, August 1st, we will have our retreat from 3:30 to 6:30. And is that here?
That's here.
That's here, okay. August 14th, we have a personnel meeting at 6:30, and August 15th at 7:30, construction and WPCC, and that will be at the admin office.
Policy and Curriculum Committee will meet August 14th, 5:30 here at Central Services.
Is there anything else you would like to report on?
Help, August,
I could tell he was searching frantically.
yeah, that's it.
Special ed and transportation, August 15th at 8:30,
Yeah.
at the admin building.
Yes, 15th at 8:30.
Okay. All right, well, I think that takes care of all of our business. Meeting adjourned.